Hi everyone, Armoured Pants here, and I have another video for you in the German line. This is the Tier 9 German Heavy, the 4502B. As always, we have a complete guide and we look at the tech spec first, and we will do that using blitzhanger.com. And this is a monster heavy tank. And speaking about monsters and heavy tanks, have a look at this. This is a new record in the Carnivon. One of my subscribers sent to me, Peter. New record on the EU server for damage. Nice, almost 5.3k of damage. Wow, must have been some game. Congratulations, mate. Unfortunately, he didn't record it. He switched on replays now, but a bit too late. So I would have loved to have a look at this game, but nonetheless, congratulations and fantastic result. Well done. And if you want to send me stuff like this, the best way to do it is to go to the Facebook page at World of Tank Blitz at WOTB Gameplay on Facebook, and I always try to reply. Now let's have a look at the 4502B. It's a really good German heavy tank. It really is a big monster. It has a 128mm gun, which is amazing. It gets fantastic alpha rolls, 460 plus. Now I would recommend that you use gun rammer on this too. There are two gun options there, and those gun options, 105 and 128, give you 8.3 seconds and 12.2 second reload. Now the 105 has a better rate of fire, but it has less pen. Therefore, because you're going to be up tiered to this with the really big guys like the tier 10s, I would suggest to use the 128mm gun and use supercharge and refine gun on that to make sure that the muzzle velocity is up as high as possible, because the muzzle velocity on this gun is not great and it's lower on the 128mm. And normally I would therefore use the 105mm gun, but the problem is with this caliber is lower pen. As I said, if you're up against tier 9 and tier 10 heavies in this, you really need to make sure that you have more penetration to make sure that your actual DPM is as high as possible. Now I know that goes a little bit against what I normally say about having maximized muzzle velocity, but in this case, because you're up against such heavy armor, and because you're a frontline tank and you're going to be up close and personal a lot with other heavies, I do recommend you go with a 128mm gun. Now, one of the key things you've probably noticed about looking at the photograph of this tank is that it is rear mounted turret. And this means that it's a very, very different game style, game play to tanks you would have played previously, which have front or mid mounted turrets. And therefore, when we look at the armor profile, we'll discuss that a little bit more. The tank is not so mobile. It's not as slow as you might think, and you're going to see that in the game. But it is not very mobile at all, and is really a sort of slow moving monster. And it's really, its job is a typical heavy tank job. And if you remember the heavy tank guide that we have on channel, and we discussed the role of a heavy tank, it is to get to key positions on the map, to anchor at those positions, to engage with other heavies, engage with tank destroyers, absorb shots and damage, bounce shots if possible, and to allow your lights and mediums to move around the map freely. That's basically the role of a heavy tank. It's to get to these key points, anchor them, to secure them. You are in essentially like a mobile castle, as we discussed in the heavy tank guide. And this tank is perfect for that. It has great frontal armor, almost trollish, which we'll have a look at in a second. So get there and secure those positions and engage the enemy front on. Now, frontal armor, as we said, is great, and look at those relative armor numbers you can get. Now, it is a rear mounted tank. That means the turret is at the back of the tank. That means you need to know how to side scrape if you're going to play this tank. What you're looking at here is a side scraping angle. You can see the relative armor numbers on the sides of the tank, on the turret of the tank, and on the side of the turret of the tank. You are going to bounce shots in this position. You're going to bounce shots against tier 8s, 9s and even 10s. This tank's armor is really good, but you need to know how to side scrape. If you don't know how to side scrape, you will not be able to play this tank. It's as simple as that. This, again, another optimal position for side scraping. If you can hide that lower plate while side scraping, even better. You'll see here that there is some armor on the turret on the side, so if you're moving the turret you will get some bounces, particularly if you're up against mediums or lights that have lower caliber guns. Now, we discussed that you need to know how to side scrape. If you don't know how to side scrape, there is a guide to side scraping on this channel in the heavy tank guide. It explains exactly what side scraping is and how to do it in very, very simple terms. Also, if you want to have a look at the KV1 guide that we have on channel, I go into even more detail in terms of over angling, etc. when side scraping. So please have a look at those, because you will not be able to play this tank if you can't side scrape. Now, have a look here. When you are top tier, you are a front-on bully. It's almost impossible to pen. At tier 9, you're still very good, and even at tier 10, if you can hide that lower glacis, the lower plate, you will be able to bounce shots. This is a front-on armored monster, and it's very, very difficult to pen. In terms of tactics, it's pretty simple. As we discussed, play the heavy tank role. Don't drive out into the open. Go to those secure positions on the map where you should be anchoring the enemy down. So for example, if you look at Mayan Ruins, it's base A where you should be going. If you look at Dead Rail, again, base A where you should be going, where you're anchoring your team, engaging the enemy, and making sure that your lights and mediums can move around the map, and hopefully they will do their jobs and come around in behind the enemy later on, or cap if it's supremacy. So get there in this tank. Therefore, you can use engine accelerator if you want to. But if you're going to be side scraping a lot in this tank, you know that your tracks will get blown. So therefore, you may want to use 2 repair kits. It's up to you. But if you're side scraping, you're not going to be exposed out in the open when your tracks are blown. So therefore, you can afford to use engine accelerator if you so wish, if you want to get to those key positions on the map a little bit quicker. Now, let's have a look at the gameplay. We have a mastery game coming up. Now, what I'm going to do here is, firstly, as I always do, I'm going to check the setup, see what's what. I mean, your options are pretty limited in this tank. I can't go to support A, really. It would probably take me about a week to get there. But I decided to go to C, which is kind of standard heavy opening in this tank. So the only position decision I need to make is where exactly at C am I going to go. Because this tank is a side scraper, I am going to move up along the left hand side of the map here. I want to go to this house here where I can side scrape off this house, and I can open up some fields of fire, but there are limited fields of fire coming into me. So now we have a good side scraping position, kind of covering the lower glacis, the lower plate as we said, and there's reduced fields of incoming fire to me, and I can open up a few fields of fire myself. Now look at this shot here on the Ferdinand. This is how good this 128mm gun is of a short distance. That is a small target. If you remember the Ferdinand guide that we had on channel a couple of days ago, it's very difficult to pen that tank, but this 128mm gun just blasts right through. Big alpha roll on him, way over 400, and he's not having a good day. Now I'm reloaded. He's popped out for a look. Bad idea. Another shot straight into the lower glacis, and I get 2 bounces off that amazing frontal armour. So just an example of how to play this tank in a side scraping position, not really giving the enemy much to aim at, kind of hiding the lower glacis. Now I'm going to get into a bit of a duel. I wouldn't say a brawl, it's because we're not close together, but it's a bit of a duel with this IS-8, and he's going to come off way the worst of this, because if we look here, I get one into him, he gets one into me, but my alpha roll is much bigger. And then the next one, I actually adopt a better position, and I'm actually able to put one straight into him and roll forward, and he misses. There we go. Really nice shot. And you can see that the gun is really good. Way over 500 alpha roll onto him, and he is not happy. And you'll see now that he actually decides that he has had enough of this, and he is going to leave this position. He's just not gonna come out well in this exchange, so he decides to rabbit and go to find a different position. Now my ISU is coming up here. I don't really know what he's doing. He's gonna push forward and just get smashed. He's also gonna block my side scraping position, so there you go. The motion just takes him out. I tried to snap one off the motion, but I miss. And I really don't know what the IS was doing there. He's also reduced my field of fire as well, and taken up my side scraping position, so not really great play from him. and now we are one tank down as well. Now this game gets really interesting here because the motion, which is kind of unusual for such a slow moving heavy tank, decides he's just going to push on. I tried to snap one off into the Egg Panther 2 here, fails, and the motion's going to decide to push on. There's a big brawl coming up with me, two armoured beasts really in a big monster brawl now. Now the motion, maybe he was just tired of me being in this position. It's a strategically strong position and he wants to get me out of there. He also wants to take me on and wants to rely on his big heavy armour. But it's not going to work out too well for him because this tank that I have, while a heavy tank and, as I said, quite slow and not so manoeuvrable, is significantly more manoeuvrable than the motion, and you're going to see this in action right now. So I'm trying to adapt a side scraping position here. Thought I might pen him on the side, but I don't. Probably should have switched up to APCR then just to make sure. But now I have him, because now my traverse and my movement is significantly better than his. And you know, they say that in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. So even though I'm a particularly slow moving tank and not that fast, I am much faster than him and much more mobile than him. So therefore I'm actually able to kind of circle a death him here, which I guess you never thought you'd see in this tank, huh? And you can see here I also get a little bit of help from my ally here, and then I smash one into him and that's game over for the motion. He did some damage to me. And we just speed it up here, and this is something I guess you probably wouldn't think you'd see in a video like this. This is not classic heavy tank play at all, but it's just something to note if you, when you play this tank, if you get into this position with a big heavy armored monster like the VK 100p or this motion or a mouse or an E100, you would be able to outmaneuver them. You're not going to be able to outmaneuver an IS-8 or any medium tanks or whatever, but it is something just to bear in mind. Now we are still a tank down even though we've cleared the motion, but now we're going to be able to do some significant damage here on the remaining tanks. I'm going to punch a lovely shot straight into the Egg Panther here and then reverse up, and you can see create an angle so you can't get a shot onto me. And they sort of did the right thing there because they came at us at both sides, but they didn't coordinate the attack properly, and now I'm able to just roll on by. I don't want any doubts or bounces, so I'm just going to put an APCR round into them. When in doubt, why not? And if you've got it, use it. I often use APCR for kill shots at short distance like that, just to make sure, because you do not want RNG gods to frown upon you and to bounce a shot when you need that kill, particularly when we're in a tight situation 3v2. Now I know that the I came out there front on, not the best play. I didn't side scrape, but I knew that the E75 was looking the other way, so therefore it was safe to do so, and it was faster than coming out side scraping position. Cleared him off, and there you go, almost 5k damage, mastery badge, and a really good display in the VK 4502B. Really did a great job for my team. Anchored that position for them as we discussed, and there you go, almost 1.35k of XP, and it's the XP that delivers the mastery badges. And a great game also by the T54E1. Played really well, supported me really well, and played really well as a team member. Really good intelligent play from him, and the two of us together there did almost 8k of damage, sorry, we did almost 9k of damage together, and really carried it, the result home for our team. Now, I even managed to do a bit of spotting there, which is unusual in a heavy tank, but it gave me some XP. Now, I think that game shows, firstly, exactly how well this tank can do, and also how you should be playing this tank, and how you should play a heavy tank in general. Moving up to C, gaining a key position, anchoring the enemy in that position, bouncing some shots, inflicting damage, and then allowing your medium tanks, the T54E1 for example, to come into play later on and to do some damage and support you. So really just good overall demonstration of how to play a heavy tank and how well this VK4502B can play that role. Give a thumbs up for the T54E1. He did a great job, As I said, over 8k of damage together, which is really big carry from us. So let's have a recap on the key points. So this is a super German heavy tank. It's also a super heavy tank, but it's really good tank. And the frontal armour is just great. And the 128mm gun, which is my preferred gun, is a DPM monster. Even though it has a 12.2 second reload, because you're going to get that pen, the actual DPM is very good. The tank is not fast at all, but as you saw, not as slow as you might think, and certainly not as slow as that Motion thought. It is a frontline monster, especially if you're top tier. You remember from the tech spec just how red that armour is front on. So get there and do your job as a heavy tank. I would use supercharge on a fine gun on this because the muzzle velocity is quite low. Even with supercharge, it's less than 1200 meters per second. Use enhanced armour, obviously. Get those bounces going, and it will bounce as you saw in that game. It is a side scraper. We can't get away from that fact. You need this skill. If you don't have this skill, you can't play this tank. So please make sure you know how to do this and look at the guide on channel. Use the engine accelerator as an option if you want to, as we discussed, but it's not required. It's entirely up to you. There is no really right or wrong decision. Load up HE. You have a 128mm gun, so you'll be able to pen lights with HE rounds. And as this is a rear mounted tank, of course, as we discussed, there's a different game style, different game play. And as I say it again, you need to know how to side scrape, and I can't emphasize that enough because it is essential for this tank. And again, please look at the heavy tank guide and also the guide on the KV1 that we have on channel, just to recap on how to side scrape. If you already know this skill, well then you'll really enjoy this tank. The VK7201K is the next tank. Also a rear mounted super heavy tank with a big gun, very similar gameplay, so all the skills you have here will transfer. Thanks for watching. Cheers Mush, hope you enjoyed it. Pants off.